Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, we are firmly now into the off season. We are a week and a bit removed from free agency, and it's already a very slow news week, and it's only probably going to get slower. Almost doesn't seem possible, but we do still have a couple of things happening with a couple of different teams here. We got some signings, we got quite a bit of arbitration news, and then we got a couple different games and uh, thinking pieces that we can do later on. So, do we want to start with the signings? I guess.
Yeah, I say let's just jump right in. Like you mentioned, we don't got much for news, so at least we got a few things of substance to talk about currently going on in the league before we kind of maybe do a little throwback to I don't know 8 years ago or something like that. I can't remember the exact date, but a little while ago. But yeah, let's just jump into what we got here for the signings. The first one is the Washington Capitals are in fact bringing back Anthony Beauvillier, signing him to a 2-year deal at $2.75 million per year.
I don't mind this at all for the Caps. Honestly, Beauvillier to me really seemed like a prime candidate this offseason to get like an obscene contract. I thought somebody was going to really regret bringing him in. Like, I thought he was one of those guys that would get a borderline Louis Eriksson, like a 6, 7, 8 year deal at, just a bit too high for a guy like him, like at 5 mil or something. And like, it wouldn't be a massive deal, but like, I thought some team was going to overpay for him. So
Yeah,
with Washington, they know it works with him. So
well, that's the thing, right? That's why like I didn't really see that happening because I just kind of thought he was always going to go back to Washington, especially a guy like Beauvillier who's kind of bounced around the last few years and hasn't really settled down anywhere. The fact he's able to go to Washington and it worked. He finally found somewhere he can actually play, produce at a decent level, and settle down. It just never made sense for him to leave after that, at least not right now. So I kind of figured that they were going to get a deal worked out, and yeah, here we go, another 2 years for Beauvillier with the Capitals.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe somewhere like Toronto might bring him in as a depth like defensive forward.
Toronto just doesn't have the money,
but they
Toronto
just freed up Mitch Marner money.
Yeah, but that just went to Nyes and Tavares.
True. Although,
yeah,
which is strange because that is true, but also both those deals are pretty good bargains.
They 100% are, but it's like basically Marner's money that went out is kind of just went into payments. I guess you did free up some from Tavares, but
I guess Tavares' money went towards basically almost exactly how much those both cost. So
how much money does Toronto have now?
I was going to say, how much do they?
4.98. But they do still have to get Nicholas Robertson re-signed, which we'll actually be getting into in a little bit here. But the next signing we got here, sticking in the Metro Division, the Columbus Blue Jackets extended for Dmitry Voronikov to a 2-year deal, $4.175 million per year. That's a totally fine bridge deal. Good for the player, good for the team, and I guess next summer he can just cash in for a big contract at that point, even.
Yeah, and I think he's going to. If the player doesn't want to, there's nothing you could do about it. But I definitely think Columbus should have wanted to go long term with Voronkov. I think he's a really solid player, and if you can lock him up at anything under 6 mil as the AAV, I think that would have been a great deal for them going forward. But he also hasn't been there a crazy long time. He's still pretty young, so give him a little more time. Really make sure you know what you're getting. If you end up paying a little more long term for that assurance, they're not hurting too bad for cap space at the moment. Yeah, so I think they're fine.
Should be okay for Columbus. They've been making decent moves lately, and this is another one that I think is totally fine for them, and I can get on board with. Next, staying again in the Metro, the Philadelphia Flyers did extend their RFA Cam York to a 5-year deal, $5.150 million per year. I think this is totally fine. Cam York's a good, second pairing kind of two-way guy. Curious to see kind of, what his play style is like and what he can produce without Tortorella, specifically York, because we know they had a lot of issues. The two of them kind of button heads and clashing and saying a lot of hurtful things to each other. So I think this is a good deal for both the player and the team. York gets a nice little payday, and then the team can potentially lock in a really solid second pair guy at just a little over $5 million. While you look at Columbus, good second pair guy, they're deciding to pay 8.5 due. So
yeah,
I like it a lot for Philly.
The price for a solid top 4 defenseman, not even a guy who can flex into that first pairing, just a solid second pairing guy, is pretty expensive nowadays. So being able to lock him in, because this is an extension, right? So he's got whatever.
Well, no, because he was an RFA.
Oh, he was an unsigned RFA?
Yeah.
Okay. So even still, 5 years at barely over 5, like that's really solid work by Philly. I think this is going to look like a great deal.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it.
And of course, without Torts, I think Cam York will improve a bit. I think it's just going to be nice for him. It is interesting because I hadn't really thought about it, because they brought in Rick Tocchet, correct?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people saying, I didn't know much about his coaching style, but it sounds like he is rather similar to Torts in that, like obviously not as incendiary, like pretty much nobody is, but it does sound like he's a very make them work hard and work for every inch that they get, and a rather old styled coach. So
yeah, he's not as like blunt and straightforward and kind of like, I don't want to say aggressive, but also kind of aggressive like Torts. But he holds players accountable, and that's something that some players like and some don't. And in my opinion, if you're a player that can't be held accountable, you probably shouldn't be playing in the best hockey league in the world. Like that's part of it. Like you do something dumb, you mess up, like you need to own that. It shouldn't just be, we've seen I'm not going to throw coaches' names out there for this, but like there have been coaches where there's no accountability. It's like you do something dumb, it's like, don't worry, you'll get them next time. But then the players do it again. It's like all right, now it's just going to become a trend because there's no accountability. And then
it's one of those things that needs accountability, but like it almost needs to happen in a way where people like us wouldn't know about it, other than if the player wants to talk about it later. Like you couldn't sit here and tell me that guys like John Cooper, Paul Maurice, like Bednar, like surely these guys hold their guys accountable, their stars accountable and whatnot, right? But like you don't really hear about that. A guy like Torts, anytime he holds somebody accountable, you know damn well. And I guess,
but I guess
that is cherry picking a bit, because you do notice it at times. There was the infamous, even this past season, Cooch just won the Art Ross, but partway through the season, he got benched, and he's sitting there with his gloves on the bench, and he's all pissed off, and
kind of pouting almost. Yeah,
that picture is taken while the goal horn's going off, because the Lightning scored on a power play that he wasn't out there for, because he got benched for a turnover. So I guess there are times where they still do hold those guys accountable. It's just,
well, it's also kind of tough
because the coach doesn't blow it out of proportion, so it's harder to think of.
But it's also like in Philly, and Philly's one of those places that it's kind of got a bigger media, but it's not like one of like the big huge markets, kind of like like the Rangers or Toronto, whatever. What do they have to talk about? Like all season long, what do you cover? It's basically either what's Michkov doing or what's Torts doing. There was really nothing else. It's like, I mean, maybe a little bit of Konechny with the great season he had and Four Nations, whatnot. But outside of that, it's like, you're talking about Michkov and what he's doing. And that was even kind of tough when he went through that slump mid-season. So there wasn't as much. It's basically let's just talk about Torts and
Yeah.
find everything that's going on with him and in that locker room. And it's like, so, because again,
He hates
maybe
the
Gritty
media,
was
but man,
honestly
he's
the
the face of almost
thing.
every team he coaches. Like,
Yeah.
it's
It's how
so
you know you
funny.
got a good coach. It's how you know
Oh
you got
yeah.
a good coach. But yeah, overall for Philly, really like this for Philly. Really like this for um, Cam York. The more I look at Philly, the more I really wonder what their outlook is going to be for this upcoming season, and if we see a move, because you kind of look at Philly and it's especially tough for them in this draft now with like upcoming in 2026 that because we talked about how they drafted Porter Martone, right? And we are both a really big fan of that deal because now it's like you've got Michkov and Martone. That's kind of going to be your wingers for your top kind of two wingers in the future, along with Konechny. And
Ando
by
and
drafting
Tippett, man,
Martone,
if they can
yeah,
find a real good center, he has his
but
pick
and
of the
that's the
litter to
thing
play
though,
with.
because this past draft there was so like what was it? Picks 2, 3, 4, 5, not 6 because I was Martone, but 7, 8. So 6
All
of the top
centers.
8 picks were all centers and project to be good centers. This upcoming draft in 2026 is more defensemen, especially right-handed defensemen at the top of the draft, which is huge, and wingers, but not many centermen. Philly's got their wingers for the future looking pretty good, but their centers are, you know,
I'm not gonna
maybe
lie.
Zegras, but that's the only guy that I'm like has a chance to be their first line center of the future. So I'm wondering if there's a move that they're potentially going to be looking to make over this offseason or over the upcoming season, because you've got your wingers, but to win a cup like we're seeing all these teams doing, you kind of need a good 1-2 center punch.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, you're kind of screwed.
It's really interesting because I kind of love the way they're building this because I think as long as we're just talking about the forwards, I think the most important thing is you need that number one center. You need that guy. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I think out of the top 6, that's kind of the easier part to get, you know? You can I think it's easier to get middle 6 or top 6 wingers. I think if you're looking for elite talent, it's easier to get elite centers than it is to get elite wingers. And they've got a ton that we were just mentioning of these elite or at least project to be elite wingers. All it takes is an elite center go into free agency and you pick him up and all of a sudden I'm not sure which top tier centers are expiring soon, but I know he's locked in, but let's just say a guy like Jack Eichel ends up going to free agency next offseason. His contract doesn't, but say he does. All of a sudden, your top 6 being, man, our first line of Konechny, Michkov, and Eichel, and then you got Tippett, Zegras, Martone whenever he breaks out on that second line, like that. You add that one top center man if you can find him in free agency. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, this top 6 is dangerous. Like that would immediately
Mhm.
be probably a top 10 first line in the league. And this is a decent looking team, but right now, like we've even heard insiders say the Pittsburgh Penguins are the only team looking to take a step back this next year. Every other team wants to try at least and take a step forward going into
Mhm.
September. This team looks pretty decent. Their goaltending, Dan Vladar, Ivan Fedotov, Samuel Urson. The best way to lose games is not have great goaltending. And no shade to those guys, but like none of them scream starter to me, at least not at the moment.
Urson
They could
can.
get a decent they could get a really
Urson
decent pick.
can, but he's very hot and cold.
Yeah.
Um,
He's also
the one,
25, which is very young for a
yeah,
goalie. Goalies take a lot longer to get in the league usually.
because the one thing I'll say with Philly that I think could be interesting, and for what a deal might look like, I'm not sure. Maybe we can come back to this. Maybe we'll do maybe in like a week or two. Maybe we'll just sit around and throw around some mock trades or something, because I'm sure there'll be
I love
nothing
it.
of substance to talk about. But I wonder about a guy like Martin Necas for him, who, we know Colorado took a big swing on bringing him in, but it's kind of sounding like he's not happy with the situation there. He might not sign long term there. He's on the last year of his deal. So there's a very good chance, either potentially this summer or before the trade deadline next season, we could see Martin Necas moved again. And I'm assuming, kind of similar to Rantanen, if Colorado's moving him, it's going to be you're shipping him out east. You don't want to move him within your division. Like, look at how Rantanen getting back into their division haunted them.
And you know what? This time, put a contingency on that. I didn't even think about it, but like, the more I've heard about it, when you make a trade, you design the contract. You make all the rules. There's so many random rules that constrain what you can do, but like, they could put in there, we'll give you Martin Necas, but if he plays a game against us on a Western Conference team in the next 5 years, we get that year's first round pick. Like, you can add clauses
that's happened before.
Yeah, like they absolutely should have done that with Rantanen.
When San Jose traded for Mike Hoffman, back when Hoffman and Karlsson were having their dispute and whatnot in Ottawa, and Hoffman got moved, he got traded to San Jose, and San Jose, like 20 minutes later, flipped him to Florida in Ottawa's division. And then fast forward like a year later, the Sharks trade for Erik Karlsson. And there was a clause in that if San Jose traded Karlsson to any Eastern Conference team within, I think it was like 6 months or something, because he only had 1 year left on his deal. So they're not going to be like, you can't move him, you got to hold on. But it was like 6 months, basically up until the trade deadline. If they moved him there, they would have had to give Ottawa like another second round pick or something on top of all the
Basically, we don't want to at least see him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And like,
so like,
why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
And you know what? I wonder if, obviously, I guess it was a sign and trade, so it's kind of different. But I was wondering if maybe they did something like that with Marner. I imagine the sign and trade kind of makes that a moot point, especially with it having, I believe, a full no move.
Yeah. But that's something interesting for Philly. We should move on for the sake of time. But yeah, I just thought that, it's kind of interesting with them. They kind of got their wingers looking good for the future. They got some okay pieces on the blue line. Maybe they got a little diamond in the rough. But
it's got a lot of
center
top
prospects,
4-ish guys.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the same with their centers. You got some good center prospects, but probably capped at, second line center, third line center. Like, you don't have that true number one guy that up front there.
It sounds goofy to say, but like, this team looks ready to contend. All they need is a number one D-man, a number one center, and a number one goalie.
Yeah.
Which, like,
all the complementary pieces are all there, though.
Yeah, sounds like they're pretty far away, but I mean, you can sometimes get those guys in free agency or in a big trade. And I definitely, with every team trying to move forward, the East being an absolute gauntlet, the goaltending, I definitely think they're going to be picking rather high. I definitely think Philly's going to be in the lottery next year. And if they can hit big on that, that'll be absolutely huge for them.
It's not like Philly's a bad team, but it's just like, you look at how good the Eastern Conference was this year and how good they're going to be. Again, like, Pittsburgh's obviously probably going to be the bottom. Boston, maybe they blow it up at the trade deadline again and tank in the later half of the season, but they're obviously going to be trying to contend next year and get back to winning. So
they're either going to win the cup or they're going to get Gavin McKenna, man. I just know it.
Gavin McKenna committed to Penn State as well. So
yep.
Big sucks for the CHL though. Yeah, he's getting paid though, so obviously good for him and good for Penn State too. 10 years ago they wouldn't have probably had a sniff at a guy like Gavin McKenna. Now to get a guy like him is pretty cool. It was interesting though. Actually, I'll quickly say this so we can move on. I saw a very notable scout within the hockey world. say that Gavin McKenna is going to be a great player, but he doesn't hold him as high in regards as a prospect when he was covering Connor Bedard or Macklin Celebrini, which I thought was very interesting because I kind of thought, the way I look at McKenna, he's kind of like another franchise generational type player. But
I was gonna say I would have
maybe
him.
we were all just too low on Celebrini in his draft year.
Well, that's what
I
it
was still
sounds.
decently high on him, but it's starting to sound like it's like
That's what it sounds
scouts
like,
were
really.
holding Celebrini higher than McKenna, which
Cool,
I
because
think could change once we see McKenna actually play like in the NCAA and not in the dub, because we never saw Celebrini play in the dub, and we only saw Bedard play in the dub. So maybe it's kind of different between leagues. I'm not too sure.
I wonder how much that helps a guy's development too, because the best players in the NCAA, they're putting up what, like a point and a half per game, generally not even that, but like the best players, they can put up like damn near 2 points a game in the WHL and then the CHL. So
Yeah,
especially the
so
Q.
I think it's kind of a mixture of both, because when you play in the NCAA, and again, this is just my opinion, you're playing against some older players, some bigger, more physical. Like in the dub, it only goes up to like 21 years old, but you can go up against quite a bit older guys and stronger guys and whatnot in the NCAA. But I've always said, and I will still stand on this, the transition of the day-to-day life as a hockey player is easier for the kids coming out of the WHL, the OHL, the QMJHL to the NHL, as opposed to the guys coming out of the NCAA. And that is just because
you think that's easier for him? Okay.
I think the transition a little bit, because the formatting's the same, right? You look in the NCAA, it's like kind of weekend games, because you still got school during the week and you do your practice during the week.
Right.
Whereas in the dub, the O, the Q, it's
I guess they
could
play
have
quite
games
a few less
any day
games as well.
and you play like a full long season in those leagues, and that's your thing. You could have games on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday afternoon. So it kind of makes it a bit easier of making that transition of like, you could have back-to-back games on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever. So it's not like they come in and immediately dominate, but it's a little bit easier for them because
It's less of a culture shock, for sure.
Yeah, as opposed to joining.
That's a great point.
Oh, I don't have 4 days off and then I have a back-to-back. I could have a back-to-back, 1 day off, and then another game right after that.
You got one more right afterwards.
Both leagues, though, all those leagues are all terrific at developing players, though. Like I personally don't think one route is better than the other. But if the players want to get paid before making the jump to the NHL, NCAA is the way to go right now.
Yeah, and one thing that I did not know until I saw earlier this morning, if you know much about it, you can fact check me for sure, but I believe I saw that Penn State that signed McKenna, it's because they're one of the universities in the NCAA that offered him the most money in his bonuses and his contracts for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this was off
$700K,
and that's almost comparable to an NHL minimum deal.
Yeah.
You know who signs that frickin' check? Terry Pegula, the owner of the Buffalo Sabres. He was willing to shell out the money for his NCAA team, but he's not willing to pay any amount of attention to the Sabres. We've even heard before that there's like an internal cap, like he doesn't allow the GM to spend to the NHL salary cap because he doesn't want to spend too much money. Meanwhile, he shelled out money to get McKenna over there.
Interesting. So. I did not know that. That's
yeah.
That's interesting.
Like obviously he's not a free agent. Like whoever gets him in the lottery gets him. So like there's not much wheeling and dealing to be done there, I guess. But
hey, that's interesting though. I was not.
Yeah, for a notoriously frugal man, he won the bidding war for McKenna. So
yeah,
and if there's anyone who could bring Buffalo out of it, well,
yeah.
I say that it could also just be really sad to watch.
Probably will be very sad for Buffalo. The last signing we got here, because we only had 4. This was a guy that was going to go to arbitration as elected by the team, but obviously the two sides did come together on an agreement. the Utah Mammoth extended forward Jack McBain to a 5-year deal at $4.250 million per year. Can I double check that that's right?
That's what I am seeing on.
Oh yeah,
Cap
4.
Wages.
Okay, for some reason I think it was up by 5. I'm okay with this for Utah.
I really
McBain's
don't
come
know
in and
much
has been a
about him, so
solid
I'm looking up his
piece
stats
for him.
here.
His numbers aren't crazy, but he's a big body. From what I've kind of seen,
6'4",
decent,
220.
solid two-way guy. So, and can only go up from what he's putting up. So I don't hate it. 5 years is a bit crazy, but I thought it was going to be like kind of what Voronikov got, like a 2-year deal at this cap hit, and it's like you then what you got after those 2 years, where it's like you just commit to 5 years is kind of wild, but hey, that's where they're at. So
yeah, you know what?
I'm not high on this deal. I'm not low on this deal. I'm unsure.
It's fine. Well, the start of next season will kind of be telling, I guess, how good it really is. And I mean, not for nothing, the last 3 seasons, 82 games played, 67, 82 this past year. So, he's got a clean bill of health, which unfortunately you really got to keep an eye on. Some of these guys look so good and their bodies can't hold up to it, or just not even injury prone, just bad luck even. So dude's already got 241 NHL games under his belt, produces decently well. I could definitely see him making an improvement there. I think Utah is going to be low-key really good next year. Like, they're in a strong
I'm excited
Central.
for them.
They're in a very strong division, so it's hard to see them doing that well. But I think they're going to be sneaky good next year.
Yeah, I'm kind of on that boat. I'm pretty high on them and where they're going to be.
And they got a logo now.
Yeah, they actually have an identity for once, which
the Mammoth Club.
All we were asking for out of them. Arbitration. We know that there are a few players who have elected for arbitration. Like I mentioned with Jack McBain, that was a team-elected arbitration, meaning that no teams could offer sheet him anymore. And that happened with Bowen Byram of the Buffalo Sabres. The team elected for that, so he is not eligible to be offer sheeted anymore. Will he even get to arbitration? There's a lot of rumors swirling around about him getting moved. Teams in on the mix. The problem is apparently he's asking for $9 million per year. And
why is he going to arbitration then?
I don't think a team's gonna. Well, the team elected it. Like Buffalo said, we're going to arbitration.
Oh, right. Okay. I was going to say, no way he wants that.
Makes sense why they did, because they're not going to pay him $9 million, but they also don't want a team
are not giving him close to $9 million either. So it makes sense.
So I still think Byram's going to get traded at some point this year. I think that's just a given, but I don't think he even starts on Buffalo next season. I'm curious to see what Buffalo ends up getting back for him and what kind of contract he signs.
What kind of team needs a guy like that, do you think?
Well, St. Louis, I've heard, is in the mix, and they do.
Yeah, that's fair.
St. Louis does. Who else? I don't fucking know who else.
St. Louis is also reportedly shopping around Kyrou, so there might be some sort of blockbuster trade brewing there.
Yeah, I know Montreal's going hard after Kyrou, but Montreal refuses to move their prospects that they have. And it's like, well, how do you get a guy like Kyrou, without moving something of substance?
Yeah, give us an elite top 6, first line time guy, and we're not going to give you anything good in return. That's just not how it works. It's the one kid on the playground trying to trade his Pokemon cards, and all he wants is a shiny Charizard, but he's only willing to give you a Geodude. Sorry, bud, that the market says no.
Yeah, shit don't work that way.
I'm not taking
other players that have elected for arbitration, these are now the players that have. Lucas Dostal with the Anaheim Ducks, Maxim Siplikov with the Islanders, Capo Caco with Seattle, Nick Robertson with Toronto, And then Morgan Barron, Dylan Sandberg, and Gabe Vilardi, all Winnipeg Jets. So there's a few players out there that are confident enough in themselves that what they've done and what they've contributed is enough to help them win the arbitration and get a fair deal. We'll see how many of them actually end up going to arbitration. I'm very curious with the Winnipeg guys because they just lost
Nick Ehlers.
Nick Ehlers. So, you kind of need to keep your guys that you've got there. And so I'm curious to see what kind of deals those guys get, especially Vilardi and Sandberg. I think are both, instrumental key parts of that team. And if you're Winnipeg, you probably want to lock them in long term here and just get them locked in and, have them be part of your core going forward now. I think as they should. I think they were both phenomenal last year and have definitely earned a nice long deal to be part of that group moving forward.
Yeah, most of these guys I definitely don't see getting to the arbitration part. I think Dostal is 100% getting a deal done before that point. They know damn well he's the goalie of the future in Anaheim. They want to try and get his number down, but they're gonna pay the man.
You got to pay
around what he's asking at the end of the day, as long as they can get him long term. I think Capo Caco probably gets signed before arbitration, probably as well.
Probably a 1 year deal, honestly.
Probably. I think he has a 1 or 2 year bit of a prove it bridge deal there.
Like, show you can do it for another year.
Yeah. Siplikov, I'm not as sure on.
He'll get one. He'll get a deal done, especially after bringing
I think he'll get a deal done
now for the Islanders.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll get a deal done for the big man.
Yeah, more so whether or not it's going to be through arbitration or not. Nick Robertson, I could definitely see the deal happening in arbitration or he gets moved. I don't think they sign a deal before then, really. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for the player to budge on his money or for Toronto to budge on the cap hit. It doesn't seem like a fit for Robertson in Toronto anymore.
No, he needs.
I think the best outcome is a trade for both sides, really. So, and then Winnipeg, it's very interesting because all those other ones, there's one of these guys in that situation on each team, and then the Jets have 3 of them. One of them being Gabe Vilardi, who is like you talked about him and Sandberg being important pieces, but Sandberg's a bit more of an important piece in the future, and the near future now, but the long term. Vilardi's important right now, this past season. So that's
especially after losing Ehlers. Vilardi now, obviously Kyle Connor's their best winger, but under Kyle Connor now, Vilardi is your second best winger, just like that. So maybe he's looking to get a nice pay raise. Maybe they're just working out a long-term deal to keep him locked in there and, a Jet for life. I'm not sure, but something to keep an eye on with all those guys. Obviously, we'll come back to any of them if any deals are signed in the next episode. But Braden, you had a little fun thing you wanted to do here for this one. So I'll kind of let you set the scene for what we're looking at here in this next segment.
Yes, sir. So I have somebody else brought this up recently on the r/hockey subreddit, and it's just highlighting an old post. So it says 6 years ago, but it doesn't update to say 7 until it's like a full 7 years. So it's like 6 years and 350 days old or something. So it's not quite 7 years old, but it's a post that says, who are the most overrated young players under 23 in the NHL? So this is from almost 7 years ago. So this would be the offseason of 2018, which is a long time ago. And there's some guys on here that it didn't compute for me that they would have been under 23 at this point. But I figured we could go over a couple of the top names that recur on this post and just see how well or poorly these takes aged.
Yeah. Seems easy enough to me. Let's do it.
So
and for the record, I don't have any of these lists. This is you've got all of it. So I'm just going in blind into this.
Yeah. So the very first one is an Islanders fan saying Josh Hosang.
Overrated or
That
under?
overrated. These are all overrated.
Overrated. Oh, these are all overrated. Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, I mean,
it definitely wasn't
got that one right.
underrated. So
You got that one right.
that's pretty solid. A
Especially
lot of
back in
people are saying,
2018, because he was drafted in
yeah,
2014, I
yeah,
think.
man, it was a while ago at this point.
2014, I think.
Yeah, I believe this was during the 2018 summer during the offseason there.
Okay.
Dylan Larkin.
Wow.
I think that's, unless they really thought he was going to be like an Art Ross, a heart performer. I think that one's aged pretty badly.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
saying here that they don't think he'll ever be a number one center. So, and I guess you can make the argument that on a cup bound team, maybe he's not, but there's definitely worse number one centers in the league right now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to pull up his what his career high in.
Yeah. Another one that shows up constantly in here is Max
career high
Domi.
79.
So he's never broken 80. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Like, I guess it kind of depends. It's also hard to tell 7 years ago, this guy's saying he was overrated, but what were people rating him at the time?
Exactly, right? Yeah, I would still say that one kind of aged poorly. Like, again, is Dylan Larkin like a true number one center you build around? Probably not. But can he be a top line center for you? Like, absolutely he can. And he can still put up good results.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's not many people that were saying, overrating him, being like he's going to be a future Hall of Famer or much like that. Like, there's not a ton of people outside of Red Wings fans saying that. Max Domi is on here a lot, and this one I think that aged decently because I do remember people were pretty high on him for a long time, and like
when he's with
Arizona, he's not a bust by any means, but I do think people thought he was gonna stay in the top 6 on any team he was with. And there's been plenty of stints of him on third lines.
Almost kind of similar to, not to the same level, but a Rafi Torres. A player drafted pretty high up in the draft that came with a lot of skill and kind of had to shift their game into being more of an agitator, not like a full-on enforcer or anything. Like, Domi could still put up decent numbers, but yeah, kind of a middle 6 guy that can put up some decent points for you, but they can fight and stir the pot and mix shit up. Like, that's his game now, and you need those guys to win. So
one of them just won the Conn Smythe.
I was pretty high on Max Domi, and I think it's kind of went downhill ever since. I still wish he just stayed in Dallas when he went there. I thought he would fit so well there. But
yeah,
what can you do? Yeah, I think that one aged, I'd say, decently, considering, especially I know how much I valued Domi back then, and it hasn't worked out the best.
Yeah. Rasmus Ristolainen.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's a pretty fair one.
Still a decent defenseman, but definitely did not progress at the level that it was looking like at one time with Buffalo.
Yeah.
Classic Buffalo, though. Nothing new.
Jake Gensel. So
they totally threw that in because he was just playing with Crosby. And well, Crosby's just elevating his numbers and whatnot, but yeah, they're dead wrong on that one.
Yeah. And I will say, they got a lot of upvotes saying Gensel, but the first response to them had more upvotes. And the response was that Gensel is really weird because he's fine in the regular season, but holy shit, is he a handful in the playoffs? And you know what? That still checks
Yeah.
out quite
Yeah,
a
that
bit
still
later.
holds true.
So
With both Carolina and Tampa outside of once he, was out of Pittsburgh, not with Crosby anymore.
yeah, yeah, he was one of our best players in the playoff games we did play this past season. He was one of the few
Yeah.
guys that his goal scoring did not get shut down.
I think I had him as Tampa's best player in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I think it's hard to not have him in the top 3, something like that.
Yeah.
Zach Werenski. I don't know how many years he would have been in the league at 2018. Like, he didn't even have his injury trouble at that point.
2018 he would have played 2 seasons.
Okay.
47 points his rookie year, and then sophomore year 37 points. Which, I mean, up until this past year where he put up 82 points in 81 games, you could kind of make the argument that they weren't too far off.
Yeah.
But I mean, now, like, we know Werenski's like a true franchise defenseman, like easily top 10, and probably going to keep climbing the ranks. So
yeah.
So now that one looks really bad after this past year, but before this past season, I wouldn't say he's overrated, probably, but I'd say overrated before underrated, I think, but not anymore after this past year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Definitely not after this past year.
I'm so glad he finally broke out, man. I've been cheering for Werenski for like 3 years. I've had him in fantasy like however long we've been doing our fantasy league. Like, I think I might have had him every single year. I've had him like 3 or 4 years now, and he always just rides my LTIR after having a great first 2 weeks. And so it was nice to see him finally be able to keep it healthy all season and fully break out.
Yeah. That was awesome to see.
Oof. Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, that one looks bad.
In the off season, in the off season of 2018. So the 18-19 season, Kucherov wins the Hart. This is 1.5 years before Draisaitl wins the Hart. Did he get the sweep? The Art Ross, Hart, and Lindsay?
In
2020.
It's a good question.
This person said Draisaitl, but they did edit afterwards and add a caveat. They said after some thought, he's not so much overrated, so much as overpaid. Holy crap, that contract.
That was the 1920 season, so 2 seasons after for that one.
Yeah. So after some thought, this guy said, you know what? He's not too much overrated. His contract's just horrible and he's overpaid.
What was he making at the time? 9.5?
I think, wasn't it like 8 or 6 or
actually
7?
Yeah, I think it was maybe 8.5.
It was like one of the best deals in the league until it expired last year.
Yeah.
He even
that one's just
clarified and made it almost a worse pick.
Yeah. They tried they doubled down on 2 bad takes.
Yeah, that one's rough. This one's rough from a Devils fan. This guy says both Matthews and Eichel. Yeah,
not much to say on that, just bad.
Yeah,
awful take. I don't think any thought process went behind that one.
Yeah, like that's pretty rough. There's quite a few people in there saying, even at the time 7 years ago, there's people saying like, nah, this is a bad take. So
yeah.
There's another one for Ristolainen, Max Domi. Wow, people are hating on Ristolainen. Jake Virtanen. Yeesh.
Patrick Virtanen was ever even like rated in the league.
Yeah, he was drafted high, and that is kind of where it ended.
Yeah.
Patrick Laine. That's one that kind of aged not too bad. I mean, he came into the league and he was absolutely lighting it up the first 2 seasons. And
that was after his year
And that's
Well, in
right after those first
2018,
2 years is right when this would have been posted. So
yeah, because that's coming off the year where he played 82 games with Winnipeg, had 44 goals, 70 points, and he's only he got 30 goals the following year and hasn't hit 30 since.
he hasn't even hit
Highest
30.
since that is 63. So they're not. I mean, that one's actually not a bad shout. Calling it after he put up a 44 goal season in his second year is kind of wild. It's a ballsy play, but I mean, looking at it now, not a
Yeah.
terrible,
There
shot in the dark there that they kind of hit on.
there's quite a few people saying there's not too many, but there's some people saying Line. There's quite a few saying Matthews. It really feels like just a couple of really recent high overall picks people just weren't high on.
Yeah, people just wanted Line A to be better than Matthews, so they're trying to
Yeah. A lot of the people
dog
saying
Austin a
Line
bit.
are Toronto fans, looks like. So,
Mm.
our
The Toronto
pick
fans
is
trying to stand up
better.
for Matthews.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Uh this one's on here, but even back then he got downvoted into oblivion. He said Aaron Ekblad. Was Ekblad even below 23 at that point? Or 23? He was drafted in
Um,
like 2014, wasn't he?
yeah, yeah, first overall.
I guess if you're drafted when you're 18.
Yeah, so he
Yeah.
probably would have been about 22. The thing with Ekblad, though, is again, it's one
He
of those
was
things like
already
where,
kind of good though. Like he wasn't maybe
yeah, well,
exactly what you want over first overall, but
exactly right. Like, but
I don't think people were overrating him.
yeah, when people expected if you draft a defensive first overall, it's going to be like a player on the level of like
Eric Carlson, Bobby
Dahlin.
Orr.
Yeah, like Ekblad was a kind of a two-way guy, but a little bit more on the defensive side. And so when he's not out there dropping 60, 70 points, people are like, oh, overrated.
Bust.
It's like was never his game. He was never projected to be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's no Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
Uh there's a lot of people arguing in this comment on whether or not Casey Middlestat is a good one. It looks like there's more Casey Middlestat believers than there were haters, but his name's brought up quite a bit.
So was anyone ever? I guess people for like a 2-month span were super high in Middlestat, but that was about it.
I can't believe he was drafted less than or more than 7 years ago. Like that I
Yeah,
kind of still look at him a little bit like a prospect. How old is he? He's probably 20,
20, 25, 26.
25. Yeah.
Probably by now.
Jonathan Drouin. Fair.
Yeah, fair. Yeah,
I'm not sure by
fair.
that point how high people were rating him because I think he was a 2014, 2013.
20,
I think it was a
2013.
2013 draft pick.
2013,
So
yeah.
5 years out, I'm not sure how many people thought he was still going to be that guy, but
Yeah.
and the last one we really have here is Sam Bennett, 18-year-old Sam Bennett.
I mean, back then, sure, yeah, but now it looks pretty bad. But like back then,
Yeah, I mean,
let's see where they're coming from.
even for like 4 or 5 years after that comment was made, it still probably looked fairly decent. But he went to Florida,
Yeah.
and that all changed pretty quick.
Changed really, really fast. Yeah, found a nice home in Florida, and now he's just starting an 8x8.5, or is it just an 8x8?
I think it's 8x8.
8x8. Yeah, they got a nice payday. 2-time Cup champs, got a Conn Smythe. So yeah, that one looks pretty bad now to say he at one point was overrated.
Yeah, it's pretty rough to say some guy is overrated, and then he wins the Conn Smythe, and somebody brings up your old take of you saying that.
You gotta live with it now. That was the last player on the list there.
We can if we want. Do you care to go over any? We can open up to overrated or underrated players, but let's keep it at the 23 years old or younger. Do you have any names that to you immediately kind of come to mind for that? Do you think there are any guys that people are really high on that you just don't see it? Are there any guys that don't get talked about enough? You got any thoughts on that?
So I'm not going to say this guy's overrated because people are definitely becoming a lot lower on him now after it. So um before I think I would have said overrated. Now I'll just say properly rated, and that is Matty Beniers.
Mm,
Um
fair.
Definitely it's kind of a tough situation for him in Seattle. But the more I kind of watch, the more I don't, and maybe this is why Seattle keeps going after centers with their first round picks. I don't think Beniers is their first line center of the future.
Fair.
And this isn't it's not even a disrespect to him. It's just the way it goes. I think his ceiling, and if he reaches this, I think that's awesome. Is Anthony Cirelli, 55 to 65 point second line center who just plays great defensively, and because he does play really great defensively. But I don't think you're ever going to get that first line production out of him offensively that you kind of need.
Yeah.
So I think a
I
really
think he could
solid
be a
second
little
line.
bit better than that. I don't know. I think I kind of project him to be about a Sorelli type at this point. But I do think if he like really hits his stride and hits his peak, I think he'll be more of a Nico Heischer. I think he'll be that guy that now you're talking about a guy who could play on that first line, but you'd rather have him on the second line and have Jack Hughes up there. So
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Sal's got lots of
I don't think he
good young
gets to
centers coming up.
Barkov level, but
No.
I think
No.
I think he could get up into that first line player conversation. But I think it's always going to be a case of you'd rather have a bona fide superstar, and then he'll be a very solid second line center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair.
No, that's a decent pick because people were really high on him. It's crazy how this past offseason, all of a sudden the script seems to have flipped. He seemed rather overrated by a lot of people, and all of a sudden, it's a lot of people are down on him now. And now he's got to
Mm-hmm.
prove himself again. So we'll
Yeah.
see about that. The guy that I thought you were gonna say, just the way you were leading into it, because you were saying he was kind of overrated and then it came down. I thought you were talking about his playoffs performance, specifically his plus minus in the playoffs. I'm talking about Wyatt Johnston. Um, I think this guy is a little bit underrated now because of that. I think they see that big minus number, which is obviously very brutal because he tied the playoffs record, didn't he, for worst plus minus? I think it was. Um,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm
he's
not
only in his
look
third year in the
like
league.
exactly, and I'm not taking that into account because you kind of look at Dallas and it's like you bring in Rantanen and Granlund, and they both go on the first line with Hintz after Robertson gets injured. You've got your second line of kind of the veterans. Like it was kind of why Johnson kind of just got shoved back down onto the third line, and you play with Jamie Benn and Dadonov, who aren't the quickest, and then you get a lot of tough matchups. That line did, and so it's like he was kind of put in a position where it's tough to succeed. Again, like Ben and Dadonov are good players, but also they're not very fast. And so
And
when Wyatt Johnson would get
that
the
means
puck
they're
and
going to line
he'd go
match
in on the
fast players
forecheck,
against you.
yeah,
You're
and
going to
then he kind
get
of
good
turn and be
offensive
like,
players.
"Oh, my wingers aren't here yet." And then it was kind of a tough spot for him. So yeah, I don't take this playoffs into account much. So
Yeah, I think because of his playoff performance, I think he's now a little bit underrated because I think that changed a lot of people's minds a bit on him. But I mean, he's still a 22-year-old, very freshly 22, turned 22 back in May. He's already played over 240 NHL games. He's one goal shy of 90 in his career, 177 points. He's got 32 playoff points and 18 playoff goals already.
yeah,
And he's going to be 22 to start the next season. That's pretty damn solid. So
Yeah, I'm still high on Wyatt Johnson. I don't really take this year's playoffs into account too much on that because again, I feel like he was kind of the guy that got the short end of the stick on the team, and ultimately he suffered because of it. And he was their best playoff performer the year before, and you didn't give him the tools to do that. I'm just trying to think of other guys that are like under 23.
Damn, he's already 25. I guess that makes sense. He's been playing for about 7 years now. I was going to
Uh,
bring up Rasmus Dahlin, but he's
this
25 at this point.
guy's 2023. Jamie Drysdale. I don't think people
Interesting.
really rate him that much, but you know, a guy that was once looking to be a top pair offensive defenseman. I think his ceiling is maybe second pair.
I think second
It
pair,
really
top
hasn't
power play unit, if he really hits his
like,
stride, kind of thing.
yeah, and that's even looking a bit unlikely.
It's
What do you
hard
have
to
last
tell.
year? Like
I'm
20,
really
20
excited.
points in 70 games.
I'm very excited to see if he can turn it around because he has not had. I don't think he's had any coaches or situations really that agree with him. You know, they have not had good
Mhm.
coaching in Anaheim for some time now. He had a couple seasons there, and then he goes over and he plays. He gets moved away from all his buddies in a great young situation in Anaheim to the at the time just an absolute hole in Philly, and it just doesn't look great there. He's got to play under torts. Like it's all this stuff. Like they got a
Mhm.
new coach. They got in some new talent. They got another year for Michkov. They got his best buddy Zegras coming in now. Like I I really hope he has a huge bounce back. Or I guess he hasn't even really got there. So I guess it'd be more of a breakout year at this point.
Yeah.
But I would love to see that for him next season. But
Yeah, if
it's
it
hard to
happened,
predict.
it would definitely be awesome. But just the way things have been progressing, the way it's kind of looking, you know, is it like super likely? Probably not. Is there the chance for it? Absolutely. And I feel like this is kind of the year where it's like you got
We're
to at
gonna know
least
what we
show
have.
you not you like he doesn't even need to have the breakout year this year. Like you know, Josh Morrissey waited till he was what 27 to have his.
Yeah.
Werenski just had his full first kind of full. Well, maybe last year's actually kind of the start of it, but you saw the signs of it. And Werenski's what now 2028.
Yeah, yeah,
So Drysdale
Werenski's had,
doesn't
like,
need
3
to.
years of showing it, but he's been too injured,
Yeah.
hasn't played the games, but you kinda
So it's
knew
like
it was there.
Drysdale doesn't need to have his breakout year this year, but we need to see the signs. You
Prove
need to at
that
least see
it's coming.
something that's like, okay, yeah, we can work with this. But again, if you have another year where you don't see it, it's um,
Yeah,
not ideal for Philly.
yeah. You know what? That's a great way to put it. Um,
Do you got any
but
others?
I think that's about all I have that I can think of at the moment. I believe you have one more thing for us at the end here?
Yeah, we got a segment we can wrap up here. That was kind of difficult because I'm like looking up guys. I'm like, hey, this guy'd work, this guy'd work. I'm like, oh shit, he's fucking 27 now. Oh, this guy's 26. Like
Yeah,
players
yeah,
just
like,
getting
I
old
looked up
fast.
Darlene, and he's 25. Uh, I think with Jay Fresh put out his, like, fan polls for the best defenseman in the league. Rasmus Dahlin, where do you think he ended up? You might have seen
Uh,
this.
or like 6 or 7.
I'm pretty sure I could double check here. I think he hit 3. I think he was number 3,
Wow.
but I was surprised by that, but, I mean, it doesn't not make sense.
I don't know if I would have him at 3. I think top 5, but 3 probably not. Not yet, at least. Definitely could get up there. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely could get up there, like, he's definitely a guy that could challenge for Norris trophies for the next
mm. Oh,
next
absolutely.
7 years for sure.
Most definitely could. But yeah, moving on to our final segment here. We are coming back with another guess the player. For those who don't know this game or unfamiliar, pretty simple. I have a random player currently playing in the league here, and it's up to Braden to narrow it down to who the players and the fewest questions, I guess, possible. And you only get one guess for the player. They can only be yes or no questions. Pretty self-explanatory, Braden. Whenever you're ready, you may begin on trying to guess the player.
All right.
You're on a 4-game losing streak as well.
True, but I have
you keep going to try and break the record though.
I'm trying to break the record.
Trying to break it. Yeah.
So you know, depending on where I'm at, maybe I'll just have to try and take a win with a respectable score. Let's start this one off with: do they play for a team in the Pacific Division?
They do not. No. They do not play in the Pacific.
In the Metro Division?
They are in the Metro. They're in the Metro.
Okay.
They're in the Metro Division.
Are they a defenseman in the Metro?
They are not a defenseman.
Okay, so they're a goalie. Jeez. I feel like I'm so bad at trying to narrow down the teams. Let's go.
Sometimes you're good at it. Sometimes rough.
Do they play for? Do they play for a team? I think it's 3. How many teams are in New York State? Is it Buffalo, Islanders, Rangers?
Yeah.
Do they play for a team out of New York State?
Yeah.
They do. Okay. So they're in New York. Let's go. Do they play for the... Do they play for the Islanders? Have I confused you?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know my U.S. geography, but yeah, no, not the Islanders. No. Sorry, I got confused with the other question. Yeah, no, not the Islanders.
Oh. Were you thinking about the Devils?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is New Jersey its own state? Or do they sneak into another one? I think New Jersey is a state. And that one always confused me. Okay, so not the Islanders. So I guess it doesn't matter which one I guess. So I'll just say, do they play for the Sabres?
Kevin, no, don't ask that. Sabres are in the Atlantic.
Oh my God, the Sabres are in the Atlantic.
We do kind of forget about Buffalo a lot, yeah.
You're so
I thought you were just throwing Buffalo in there before being like they are like in that state.
I was trying to eliminate. I was trying to eliminate 3 teams, and I thought I narrowed it down to that. Oh my God! So I know they play for the Rangers. I appreciate that.
No, because I said they're not in the state of New York.
Oh, you said they're not, dude. I'm fumbling the bag.
That's why I didn't count that one. You're 4 questions in. You know, it's not a defenseman. It's not the Islanders, and it's not the Rangers.
Okay. So it's neither. So
that's where I was getting kind of confused with it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you are 4 questions in. You know, it's not a
not a defenseman.
It's not a defenseman.
And neither the Rangers
not
or
Islanders or Rangers. Yeah. Now it's okay. Now we're making sense again.
Now we're figuring out.
Now we're making sense out of this.
Okay. So yeah, you got confused about the geography. I got confused about the divisions. There was the whole thing. So that's 2 out of the teams. They both missed the playoffs this year.
You would be correct. No.
So it would either narrow down the team to 4 or to 2 other ones if I asked that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go for it. If it's one of the 2, it'll really help. Did this player's team make the playoffs?
They did. They did.
They were
You
in the
are
playoffs.
5 questions in. So to tie your record, you would have 2 more questions, and then you got to
And
hit
then
it
get-
on a guess.
Yikes.
Or 1 more question, 1 guess, you get the player right, new record.
Okay, so
But you still don't know the team.
it's pretty rough. I know it's not a defenseman, and I know that it's either they play for either the Hurricanes, the Capitals, the Devils. Is that it? Are those the only 3 teams that made the playoffs for the Metro? Was it 5-3 this year?
What's the other team?
Yeah, it was because the Canadians and the Sens.
Yeah.
So that actually narrows it down to 3, which is nice. It's going to be tough even if I get the team, and I'm unlikely to get the team. Let's go with, do they play for... You know what? It was a little confusing earlier, and maybe this is why. Do they play for New Jersey?
They do.
Okay.
They do play for the New Jersey Devils. Yep.
Maybe I could have figured that out a little bit earlier, but we were all confused. They play for... It is not a defenseman. They play on New Jersey.
And if you want to get a new record, you got to guess the...
I would have to guess the player right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you don't really have much to go off of, so it's kind of just be a shot in the dark.
Yeah. This is just a general question for the game, not a next go at a hint. But are these players, like, since we're now doing it in the off season, are they like all still going to be on the team, or like could it be a guy who played for New Jersey but is now like a free agent or something?
No,
Probably
it'll
not, right?
always be players that are like actively under contract with the team at the time you're doing it. Yeah.
I figured. Just wanted to make sure. You know what? I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna try and set a record.
I'm gonna throw a guess out there.
I'm gonna throw a guess out there.
All right. For a new record,
I'm gonna assume it's not. I'm gonna assume it's not a goalie, because that just seems unlikely. There's so many more forwards and goaltenders. Who they got over there? They got all their top guys. I feel like it's not often one of the top guys, though. It's a complete shot in the dark. So there's not. I'm trying to apply logic to something that makes no sense. I'm thinking either Andre Palat or I'm thinking Brott. I'm gonna go with Jesper Brott. Locking it in.
You asked earlier on if it was a defenseman, and I said no. And your first response was, okay, it's a goalie. You come to your guess, and you say you're not going to go with a goalie, and it was Jacob Markstrom.
To be fair, if I did guess goalie, I think I was going to go with Jake Allen, which might have hurt even more. Yeah,
because of his new contract. I was kind of wondering if that's maybe where you were going with it. I think that's better though, to just go with the forward and get it wrong, as opposed to guessing the backup goal and it just ends up being the starter.
Yeah.
Hey, that wasn't bad though. You know what? Considering the last few times you've had really nothing to go off of. Like a couple times you've tried to guess the player and you didn't even know the team yet.
I was going to say there was a couple where I had to narrow it down to like 3 teams.
You knew it wasn't defenseman. You did pretty good here, I would say. Did not too shabby this time.
I'm gonna have to do some homework on this game, because like I want to find a way to do it that isn't just narrowing down the team and then something else, right? But like, you know, if I'm like, how many points did this guy get last season? And if I narrow that down, like that can be helpful, obviously, but there's still a very wide net. But
yeah,
at the same time, you know, if it takes me like 4 questions to figure out within like a 5 to 10 point range on their points, and then I know their position, even if I don't know the team, like that could be doable. So I think next time we do this, I'm gonna try and
come with a different approach.
I'm gonna come in with a different strategy. I'm gonna be grinding offline, figuring it out.
But we are at the end of this episode here. That is it again. Not too much news going on. A lot of just kind of fun stuff. Is nothing going on around the league. There'll probably be lots of these episodes throughout the summer. There was no Tuesday episode this week. Again, we're kind of just going based off what's going on around the league. So sometimes you might get a Tuesday episode. Sometimes you might not. You will always get the Friday episode. I think we might have a Tuesday episode next week. I think we've got some plan that we're going to do for that one. But that is it for this one. If you want to talk hockey, if you want to let us know kind of what you maybe want to hear us talk about or anything you want to see during the offseason, you can let us know at the end of our socials. The links to all of our socials are in the description across all episodes, across all platforms. Braden, as always, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Go with your gut and don't write off goalies after you've been saying the entire time, okay, so it's probably a goalie.
Never, ever.
Because then you look like a chump.
Do look like a chump. But as always, that will do it for this one. Once again, thank you for tuning in. And as always, we will see all of you lovely people out on the ice next week.